Greetings, peace, love, and light to the people watching. Quick disclaimer, my content is for educational purposes only. I gotta look because I don't have it memorized yet. I can't stress enough for you guys to do your own research, appraise my videos and information. In the event you find error, inform me. None of us have lived long enough to learn all there is to know. And nor have any of us been alive long enough to know all that transpired yesterday. So with that said, welcome to the video. Again, the copyright and trademark issue, I'm not able to deal with it, at least until, a few more days away. But, okay. The topic for this video is not the earth spacious enough for you to migrate therein? All of the, Muslim brothers or sisters that's familiar with the hadith, you'll recognize that heading, that statement, that phrase. Well, anyway, the reason, for doing that, making that the topic of this video is, it's kind of relevant to my life. Is not the earth spacious enough for you to migrate therein? The fact is, a lot of us, decide not to, scared to, I don't know, it may be a fear of change or fear of the unknown, but, I'm not going to allow fear to be a factor for me. I done already been plagued by enough of that, prior to now in this life I'm living. No longer allowing for it to have dominion or power over me. And that's the primary reason for doing this video. Because I think, I know that there are other people that will resonate with, the information disseminated in this video. So, with that being stated, I'm going to go ahead and get to it. All right. You guys ever sensed or saw or even noticed the energy of disingenuousness in people? Not being, happy for your, accomplishments and successes, whereas though you're generally happy, supportive, and, just there for them, and you're generally happy for them whenever they accomplish or achieve something, and you notice that the energy's not reciprocated. It could be a number of reasons, man, why, but, and speaking from a personal, perspective, when I began to notice it, I see again, man, like, I didn't heal from a lot of trauma, and prior to that process taking place, I was so beat down from the trauma that I had been subjugated to throughout my life that a common occurrence that I used to exemplify is to forgive, the oppressor. The one guilty of subjugating me, or either subjugating me to a behavior or the emotions that arose as a consequence to the behavior perpetrated against me, or just the recognition and realization that the love, the care, concern, and the support wasn't reciprocal. I would tend to overlook it, and that's just not healthy for you, because that cause in and of itself has an effect, and it's going to weigh you down. It's going to weigh you down. It's going to diminish your self-worth, your self-respect, all of that. So, again, I'm going to ask, if you resonate with that type of scenario, or, not just like a one-time thing. I mean, you can definitely, address that and confront, an individual, especially if it's coming from family or, somebody you deem or looked at as a friend. And I don't use that word or that term lightly. Never have. Because again, man, my story, you guys will be able to read about it soon, but my story, man, like I was a slave. I was a prisoner to my loyalty, man. You know what I mean? And, it took, certain things transpiring, whereas though I seen that, that loyalty just was not just reciprocated, it wasn't even recognized or appreciated. So, that's kind of like what led me to saying, later for all that, anybody that's not going, give me what I give them, that's a relationship I can do without. So, again, if you've been through that scenario and you recognize it, reoccurring, and it's a repetitious thing, and it's so repetitious, it's now a cycle, that you recognize or that you encounter with, certain individuals, whomever or whatever the affiliation, I'm going to ask you again, is not the earth spacious enough for you to migrate therein? All right, the next scenario is, have you been in a situation where as though you start to notice that you don't have support from family and or, friends, then so-called friends act more like enemies? If you've been in that type of a situation or situations where you realize, or you come to the realization, I should have said, in the recollection that, that certain family members, just aren't supportive, man. It's like, shout out to Kenny G. He said back in the day, man, we were cellies down Smyrna, and he said, man, if that's the love, let me try to hate. The hate got to be better than that. You know what I mean? So it's like that's the kind of situation that it tends to have one think. Especially if they think anything like me or Kenny G or any other person that come from those walks of life. You know what I mean? Like the love. It's like their love resembles more so hatred or envy, animosity. And all you've ever done was show love to these individuals in multiple fashions and forms and shapes, via action. So You know, when you notice that, man, you know, it's something that, you know, it's necessary for you to, you know, after you confront, you know, and you confront the situation and the actions don't change, you know, it's necessary to take a different course of action, man. You know, y'all know the saying, man. You know, all family don't end up being family. You know, then for the friends or people that you deem as a friend, you know, when you know you notice a reoccurrence of, you know, them basically taking you for granted, you know, and that's enough in and of itself, man. You know, for somebody that, you know, you have a genuine love, care, and concern for, you know, and you've never came at them or dealt with them in a malicious fashion, or you've never had any, you know, exhibited any negative or less than authentic actions and behaviors toward them, yet you notice, you know, that same energy, you know, ain't being returned. In fact, you're actually getting the opposite of what you give, you know. And through you know, through the sickness of, you know, what we used to call, a coin they phrased in the Key program, stuffing feelings. You know, when you, and that's relative to Erykah Badu's song Bag Lady. You know, when you don't deal with things and you compartmentalize it somewhere within yourself and you push it off to the side, you know, it's an unresolved conflict, man. You know what I mean? And that disdain just is able to incubate and fester and grow within you. And it's not healthy for self, you know. So you know, when you notice, you know, family, you know, so-called family and so-called friends, man, you know, just, you know, in those types of situations, man, you gotta ask yourself, is not the earth spacious enough for you to migrate therein? You know, it's going, you'll get it in a minute, but you know, that's the main topic, you know, because it's relative. The next is, you know, situation, you know, I'm talking about situations I've been through, and I know I'm not the only person that has went through these things when there's millions of people in the world, you know. So the next scenario is, you know, can't get ahead at your job, you know, because you viewed as a threat, or people, you know, waiting to sabotage your project, your progress. You know, I used to have, you know, I used to say, you know, certain things. I used to have certain, you know, muses that I would use, and one of them was, man, you know, don't let my confidence be your insecurity. You know, because I've found, you know, that a lot of times, man, you know, people mistake, people have mistaken my level of confidence for conceitedness, or whatever the case, you know, or as a reason for them to, you know, hold a dislike for me based on my confidence within themselves, not knowing what I've been through in my life. You see what I'm saying? That's the thing. Like, you know, when people don't know you and know what you've been through or what you're capable of, and they just don't know you, it's easy for a person to judge you, you know, without, you know, getting to know the content of that man or woman's character, you know, and that says more about the individual doing, you know, the hating, or the, you know, exhibiting the weak emotions of, you know, envy jealousy, dislike without purpose or reason, it says more about them than it does about you. But that's kind of like a thing, man. And as I because I went through it for a while, and I used to talk to people about it, man, because I needed to I wanted to get different perspectives, and I really couldn't wrap my mind around it. I couldn't understand, why when I ain't done nothing to nobody, why would these people, all of a sudden and out the blue, because it took, till a certain point when I really started taking things seriously and going after what I wanted for myself in the job. That's when I started experiencing, all the nonsense. So, basically, not to personalize it because it ain't about me. I'm just giving you, examples, because from what I gathered through talking to people, a lot of the workplaces, have similar issues, but, excuse me, I guess, for me just being authentically and innately Malik, people found issue with that. And those that were in higher ranking seniority or who had more time, started paying attention to the way I was moving and how my ambition, gave the impression that, it's funny, right? Because it kind of reminds me of Belly, when they was down south and my man was, with the glasses, with the bifocals, was outside the shop eating a banana. Talking about, yeah, them boys eating real good. I don't like that. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of like how it felt. You know what I mean? And a lot of them didn't know, because it wasn't many of them that knew me from the street or the penitentiary or from growing up. So it wasn't many of them, and I could count on one hand at the time. They didn't know who I was, how I was built, what I was capable of, or the kind of drive and focus and ambition and determination, self-application and dedication that I embody. They didn't know that. They didn't know that I was, doing the shit that they was doing in the street. You see what I'm saying? And I'm referring to the bosses and the higher ups. They didn't know that about me, but without them, without any of that being relevant to them, the bullshit, the BS began to occur. So, I mean, like, I was viewed as a threat, and I know I'm not the only person, that's wired the way I am, so I know it's other people out there that have went through circumstances and situations, similar to that. And, it just was crazy, man, because, like, me not being as enlightened or evolved as I am today, I kind of fell right into the traps laid for me, and I was going through a whole lot too at the time. Like, I was paying, damn near $2,000 a month for child support, and both of my daughters had their own room, bedroom set. I mean, they had brand new beds and dressers and nightstands, and my bed was on the floor. You get what I'm saying? I didn't get mine until after they were situated, and I'm still paying child support. You dig what I'm saying? So, like, I sympathize with all the brothers, that's and I ain't perfect. I ain't gonna sit here and try to act like it, but the only time I never, and I'm going to get back on the subject, but the only times that I can recall that I was less than forthcoming to the mothers of my daughters as it related to anything monetary is if I did not have it. And it made me feel like, less of a man, to have to utter those words or to say no, knowing that it wasn't, at least it was being presented to me as if it was for my child. And I had no reason to believe that it wasn't, but, at the end of the day, let me get back to it. You know what I mean? I was under a lot of strain, you know what I mean? And I was paying more in child support than my rent was. Then I had a car note, car insurance, you know, it was basically at the time taking care of my mother. You know, I really couldn't miss a day. You know what I mean? Because I refused to allow the circumstances uh, of child support or having to pay child support to diminish my individual lifestyle. And on top of that, I was, dealing with a woman. So I mean, like, like I said, getting back to the job scenario, bringing things like that, from my home life to the job, and it caused me to have. Well, I ain't gonna blame it on that, but looking back on it, in hindsight is 2020, man. Having all those things going on, man, and not really, having no support and having to do it yourself. I mean, I ended up having a lot of accidents, in the truck down there. You know what I mean? But again, you know, um, at the end of the day, man, it just allowed for them to substantiate, the things that they were doing behind the scenes, and out of my view, So, you know, once I, begin, the spiritual journey that I've been on, and going within, to make progress, because as within, so without. Like I say, hindsight, just, I came out of it all, man, to say the least. But is not the earth spacious enough for you to migrate therein? Your situation don't have to match mine or be anything, close to what mine was. But at the end of the day, if the actions, or you've experienced similar situations at your place of employment, and all you're doing is what you were taught and trained to do upon coming to that job, and then out the blue here come the hate, or whatever the case. It's not the world spacious enough for you to migrate therein. Next thing, have you ever felt alone even being around a bunch of people? And I'm talking about, it can be various scenarios. You can have a large family. You could have a lot of friends. Associates. You could just be somebody that is around a lot of people on a day-to-day basis, man. And the way I see things is, if you have a lot of people in your regularly in your circumference,